Hey y'all, hey, I'm back with another video. Again, sorry, not in front of my computer. It is what it is. Let's talk about this Diddy verdict. I have been waiting all day, because the verdict actually came out at like 10 this morning. I wanted to wait for everything. I wanted to see the bail sentencing. I wanted to see if he was going to get out. I wanted to see, when the bail sentencing was, all of that stuff. So I'm here. So as y'all know, civil law is my YouTube name. Really, most people don't know this, but it's my YouTube name because I actually started to do everything I needed to do for law school. Unfortunately, I never actually got to finish, but I have all intensive purposes of going back, Lord knows. But because of that, to be fair though, I do have a degree in legal studies, so so I'm not completely that far off, and intern with a lot of lawyers. Shout out to my people downtown. So this whole case has been so interesting for me because I've been able to learn a lot. The amount of readings, the amount of case law. I'm gonna try to understand something. The amount of case law that I have read over the past 2 months, bitch, I probably could teach a damn law school at least L1 at this point. But so I'm here to break down some of the things that people may be a little bit confused about, not understanding when it comes to this case, right? So if you don't know at this point, today, July 2nd, 2025, P. Diddy was found not guilty on 3 of his 5 counts. Out of 2 of those 5 counts, he was pretty much found guilty on those. So the 3 charges he was not was the RICO charge, which is, the one that most people talked about. It's the one with the harshest sentence, which would have been a life sentence. And then he was found not guilty on the sex trafficking. Oh, so I don't know if I'm allowed to say it on here. The trafficking of Cassie, and he was found not guilty on the trafficking of Jane Doe. But he was found guilty on transportation of I believe from prostitution activities, which was counts 4 and 5 when it comes to Jane and Cassie, right? So for me personally, I thought that they would find him guilty on the RICO. I thought they would find him guilty on the trafficking of Cassie. I thought they would find him not guilty of trafficking Jane. And everything related to Jane Doe, so counts 3 and 5, I thought that they were going to find him not guilty, and then I thought they was going to find him guilty of everything else. Reasoning being is because, again, I have followed this trial every single damn day since it started. Shout out to Inner City Press Live, because that's really the person that I was following throughout this case. I was on his Twitter every day. He was in the courtroom doing live updates. He did amazing. Shout out to Inner City Press. Shout out to Megan Cunniff, who put me on to that person. Between that and reading, like I said, all of the case laws and NBC and CNN and just taking in everything, right? I felt like Jane Doe, her testimony, I felt like for the jury would probably come off like she was, the way that people try to paint Cassie, oh, she's just this jealous girl who's just going along with things. I feel like Jane Doe really came across like that. Cassie to me, not at all with her testimony, but I felt like Jane Doe testimony on the stand wasn't really the best. I think it made it pretty hard to see whether or not she was forced. Now, I believe in certain situations that she was, which is what the prosecution was saying, which is we only need one time. We don't need all the times. We need one time. So under that, yes, but I really did feel like Jane Doe's testimony was probably gonna not resonate with the jury in a way that it's supposed to, right? So I figured, no, I absolutely knew that they was going to get him on the prostitution charge, because that is something at this point that can't really even be denied. It is what it is. It happened, right? So comes out as far as the RICO charge. Now, I felt like listening to the state's case, I felt like they did a good job of making their case. I felt like their closing was really, really good. I felt like especially their explanation of all of the charges and how they proved all of those charges was laid out pretty good to me. Clearly not with everybody on the jury. Now, they came back after deliberating and said that they had found him, found the verdicts on counts 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? But they were stuck on 1, which is the RICO, and they were saying that there were people on the jury that just wasn't being swayed. Now, that was yesterday, like right at the end of the day, they sent him home. They came, and I want to say less than an hour, they came back with a verdict. To me, it just gives, it gave, you know what? We don't agree, but fuck it. Like, we don't want to be here. The 4th is about to come up. That's what it gave. So, again, they didn't find him guilty on the RICO. Now, we're going to talk about a lot of things. I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible, though, right? People, let's talk about, like, the initial, oh my gosh, right? So, first of all, you got Kristen Combs, is it Kristen? Yeah, Kristen Combs, Diddy bopping in front of the daggone Escalade or whatever. The reporters come up to him and asked how he felt. He didn't say nothing. He just Diddy bopping, and his girlfriend is like, happy. Girl, you're new, because Kristen's girlfriend, beautiful girl, but the point of the matter is, girl, you just started coming around. Nobody cares about what you have to say. You just want to be seen. Get your ass out of here. But y'all, Diddy bopping, y'all literally made like a scene of the damn Boondocks. Y'all outside of the damn courthouse pouring baby oil all over yourselves. Now, I'm trying to understand from Armand Wiggins' point of view, who was one of the people that we saw in the video getting baby oil and jumping all up and down. What was the point of that? Because throughout this case, especially like towards the end, like the last couple of days, he has been on the side of the fact that Diddy is guilty. So I'm not understanding why he was dancing in the streets with baby oil being poured all over him. I'm not understanding that part, right? Then we also have, Tiny, which is, T.I. and Tiny, whatever. She's in the comments being all excited. Now, let's be very clear. Tiny's only excited because she said, oh, yeah, people want to charge you so badly with being freaky. No, you're saying that because you and your husband actually got charged with something not that long ago. That's why you're saying that. And y'all, you and T.I., that's a whole nother conversation. We ain't going to talk about that right now. But y'all are a different conversation, right? And then allegedly, Kim Porter's best friend, was in the comments being all excited. Now, I don't know who that woman is. I know that Kimora Lee Simmons was one of Kim Porter's best friends, and she done already came out and said that she don't fuck with that nigga, she can't stand Diddy, all this other stuff, right? So, that happens, right? So now, we were waiting all day. If you were paying attention and you read, because a lot of this let me know that none of y'all read, which is why y'all are not lawyers. Let me stop for a second before I go any further. I want to be very clear. No, I am not a lawyer, but I was pursuing to become one, and I'm absolutely going to complete that journey. God willing, I will complete that journey. But there's a reason why everybody is not. Because there's a level of reading, comprehension, and understanding that you have to have, and your mind has to work a little bit differently. Even if you took the LSATs, you would know that to be a lawyer, your mind has to move, and it has to work, and it has to look at things a little bit differently. And one of the main things as a lawyer you have to do is read. You have to read. And one of the biggest things with this case that I realized, similar to the Megan and Tory's case, is that y'all niggas don't read. Y'all don't read. You don't read. It's so annoying. So when I be trying to talk to certain people, it's like, I could tell who actually did their research and read and who did not. And that's how I know who to converse with and who not to on this topic. But anyway, so we been waiting all day to figure out, okay, so if he was found guilty on those 2 charges, what does that mean? So, one thing I did not realize until I read, because the judge pretty much said, after the verdict came in, that the ADA and the defense needed to email him by 5 o'clock today. Why is it whether or not he should be let out on bail, right? Because now that's the question. Should he be let out on bail? And the defense's email to the judge, it pretty much was like, he's never been found. This is his first time being found, guilty on something like this. He's a pillar to the community. He has children. They offered $1 million in bond for his mama, his baby mama, and somebody else to sign off for him, and that he would take drug tests or whatever, and pretty much saying he's not a threat to the community. On the flip side, you had Cassie, a lawyer, put out send something to the judge saying that she wishes that he stayed, right? Which that's important because she is technically a victim of the prostitution crime. Because I want to be clear, right? The prostitution crime, it's not just about Cassie and Jane Doe, which I'm going to get to in a second, right? It's in relation to Cassie, Jane Doe, but other escorts as well, which I'll get to in a second. But Cassie, lawyer, put out a letter to the judge saying, please don't let him out. Deontay Nash, which is the stylist that came up on the witness stand throughout the trial to talk about what he experienced, styling Cassie and the things that he saw. He put out a letter, which I thought that his letter was... I thought it was perfect, okay? I thought it was so good. Pretty much saying that, like, man, this man is a danger. I've seen the stuff that he's done, and a lot of us as witnesses, we're terrified if this man gets out, right? And then the ADA presented the letter. Now, the ADA said a few things with their letter, right? First thing they said is that under the Bail Reform Act, which is pretty much layman terms, is just pretty much the act that says, that you can be granted, that you have the ability to be granted bail, pre-trial or pre-sentencing or whatever, right? Now, what the ADA is saying is that they're trying to invoke the Bail Reform Act, but they cannot, because technically under the Bail Reform Act, I believe there may be 4 to 5 charges, if I'm remembering correctly, that are excluded from that, right? And one of those things being what he was found guilty for, which is prostitution, right? And so I believe it's sex trafficking, maybe the transportation of prostitution over interstate lines. There's that and maybe 3 other where it's, if you're found guilty on that, you cannot be let out before sentencing. So they said, number 1, that's that. Legally, he's not even allowed to get out based on what he was found guilty of. And number 2, which is what I've been saying all damn day to my mama while we was waiting for this daggone bail hearing. Last year, we had Jane Doe sit on this stand and talk to us about her experiences from the last year, talking about 2024. It has been proven at this point, like they said in a letter, that even after Diddy knew that he was being investigated, he still continued in his actions. So what makes y'all think that if y'all let him out, he's not going to continue or to do other things? They both presented that, came back. The judge said pretty much he agrees with the ADA. So long story short, I'm going to sum up what the judge said. The judge said, for the following reasons, he's going to be denied bail. And I'm going off the top of my head of what I remember him saying. This is an hour ago I read this, all right? 30 minutes ago. Number 1, he wasn't let out on bail before. When y'all first did this at the top of this trial, he wasn't let out, and there was a reason for that. I see no reason to change that. That's number 1. Number 2, you as the defense have already admitted, specifically a lot of times throughout this case, but specifically in your closing statement, that you admit that Diddy is a violent man. You also admitted to the fact that he has a drug problem. So between you admitting the fact that he, was a domestic violence abuser and that he is a violent man, the whole point is whether or not he's a threat to the community. If you're saying he is a violent man, then that leads me to believe that if I let him out, he would be a threat to the community, given everything that's going on. Also, the fact that, it seems like they brought up the Intercontinental Hotel and him trying to pay people off. So all of that, the judge said, absolutely not. He has to stay. The defense comes back and pretty much says, well, yeah, we called him violent, but if we specifically are talking about in June of 2024, which they are referencing the incident that Jane Doe brought up when she said, maybe she saw something on his phone or whatever, and they got into an argument at her house and she banged his head off of the counter, and then he chased her through the house, kicked down all of these doors, and then beat her ass. So the defense was like, what we're saying is that in June of 2024, referencing that incident, that he was actually defending himself. The judge retorts and says, well, if that is the case, then why is it that he was trying to enter a batterers program right before he got arrested? And the judge said, we did not tell the jury that, right? We didn't tell the jury that, but I know that right before he was arrested, he tried to enter a batterers program. So the judge pretty much saying, if he was actually defending himself, right, and he's not as violent, even though y'all just said that he was violent, why would he be trying to enter a batterers program if he didn't do anything wrong? Make that make sense, right? The defense didn't really have much to that. So the judge was like, The bail is denied because they tried to get like, well, we can put something together for you. He said the bail application is denied. The judge is not with it. He's not having it. You're not getting out, sir. And then the judge said, so we will reconvene for sentencing on Friday, October 3rd. Bitch, it's July. It's about to be July 3rd tomorrow. July, August, September, October. That means for at least another 3 months that nigga gotta sit. And so the defense is like, no, we would like to, have like a speedy sentencing or whatever. And then long story short, the judge was like, all right, come back to me on July 8th with why you explain them pretty much like why they think that the judge should like sentence him sooner than that. But also, we're talking about the sentencing guidelines right now. In the letter that the ADA sent to the judge regarding why he shouldn't be let out on bail, they also kind of talked about the different guidelines sentencing, and so did the defense, right? So the guidelines sentencing, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's what the court and attorneys and the law uses to determine how much time somebody should get, right? So if we're going off of the defense's side, the defense is trying to say that the guidelines for this case means that he should get about 21 months, right? Diddy has served 10 months. So what I would assume is that at the most, maybe he'll do like a year, maybe a little less than a year if the defense has it their way. And what the ADA is saying is that they want to offer, I believe, 51 to 63 months. So about 4.5 to 5 years. Now, this is the interesting legal part. Maybe y'all don't care about this. Maybe this is just me because I give a fuck about the law. Let me say something that's so interesting about this. When it comes specifically to the sentencing, right? When it came to the guidelines, the ADA pretty much said that because he was found guilty on these prostitution charges, right? One for Cassie and one for Jane Doe, right? That according to the guidelines, there are levels, right? There are different levels of sentencing and how much you should take into consideration. What they pretty much said is that there are individual separate counts for each time that somebody was transported over state lines for prostitution charges. So, AKA meaning that, yes, you have the charge of Cassie and you have the charge of Jane Doe for the prostitution. However, underneath those, you have separate counts for each time pretty much that somebody, escort was brought in for these freak-offs. So really, instead of just Cassie and Jane being 1 and 1 as far as the counts, there are, and I think they said there are at least, if we're going off of the people that came on the stand as far as escorts, there are at least 6 or more escorts, I'll say, that, were pretty much engaging with these 2 women. So each of those people, right, are individual counts underneath the prostitution charge. So, layman terms, right? Yes, we have Cassie and Jane. He was found guilty on the transportation of prostitution for those 2. But, for example, the Punisher, he falls under 1 count. All of the guys that they did something with, they all fall under the separate counts of this specific charge. Now, I want to be very clear. It says also that we're not saying that for them to fall under those counts, it doesn't mean that they had to be forced. It means that it actually happened, even if they were willing to, right? So because of those counts, right? And because there are, I believe they said 6 or more, people that was transported, it ups the level even more of how much that they can sentence him, right? So point of the matter is that they broke all of that down. They want to give him 4.5 to 5 years. Honestly, I personally think that they'll split the difference. I think that they will give him maybe like 2.5 to 3. I can see that with a little bit of time served. So maybe he does a year, maybe he does 2 years at the most and then walks. But on July 8th, they will also go over the sentencing guidelines, pretty much saying they will go over what pretty much should be the range. That's the whole point. We're going to sit down with the judge and say, this is what we think the range should be, to give the judge something to kind of look at. The judge will go ahead, given the range. If it's 21 months versus, to 53 months, then, we'll go with that. But the judge said that was a really large gap to him as far as their sentencing guidelines. So that's what they'll go over on June 8th. So point is, long story short, Diddy was found guilty on 2 of them things, not guilty of 3 of them things. He still faces a possibility. Yes, technically it's 20 years because it's 10 for one and 10 for the other. But in reality, the prosecution is not asking for more than 5. Now, be very clear. Be very clear. If the judge is annoyed enough, the prosecution can ask for 5 and the judge still gives 10. It's just a suggestion. And I want people to remember that. It's just a suggestion of what they think. There have been plenty of cases where the prosecution said, give this person 4, and the judge was so irked that they turn around and threw the book at the person. So be very clear that this is all just recommendations. At this point, it's out of the jury's hands. It's done. It's all on what the judge thinks and feels. And if I'm being quite honest, very honest, the judge to me seems very irritated with the defense. Not necessarily Diddy, but he seems annoyed with the defense, and he seems like he's been annoyed throughout this whole trial. The defense has done a lot of shady ass shit throughout this trial. It's been a lot of not giving over evidence. It's been a lot of trying to throw things in and throw witnesses in and throw questions in at the last minute. The judge has had to literally call out the defense about 15,000 times on the way that they're inappropriate throughout this trial. So I personally think that the defense didn't do a good job of getting on the judge's good side. And I personally think, from everything I'm understanding, you know, from the classes that I did take for law school, and everything that I did in legal studies, you know, for my undergraduate, yes, obviously when it's a jury trial, you obviously want to get the jury over. Those are the main people. But you also don't want to piss the judge off. You don't want to get on the judge's bad side, because when it gets down to it, they're 9 times out of 10 going to be the one doing the sentencing, and they're the one, similar to like a ref, you know, for like a sport. The judge is pretty much like a ref, but he really does get the final call on what happens to your ass, and y'all been irking that judge since y'all started. Another reason I think why the judge denied him bail, outside of all of the reasons that he did, is because I think there is a level of arrogance that the judge sees, and not just Diddy, but his defense team. So for example, right, at the very end, right, when, not the very end, but when a verdict comes out, you know, the defense team comes up and they're like, well, you know, we have a plane that's gassed up and ready to go to Maui, you know, so he can take him and his kids, and we just ask that you let him out. I think that was a mistake, personally, to tell the judge that y'all have a plane that's ready to go and take him to Maui. I personally think that might have rubbed the judge the wrong way, because it's like, what you mean you already got that shit gassed up? Because first of all, you didn't even know what the fuck this verdict was going to be. Second of all, it's pretty arrogant to sit in my face after you've been found guilty on at least 2 of these charges and say that you got the plane gas and ready to go to Maui at that? To Maui? First of all, bitch, who said you could go to Maui if I let you out? Who even said that I'm going to allow you to go to Maui if I let you out? I personally feel like that probably irked the judge. Like, there's something that he ain't really like about that. The defense also tried to invoke the fact, you know, that like he's the only living parent of, like, you know, the twins or whatever. But it's like, you didn't care about none of that shit last year. So I don't think the judge gives a fuck. And you're a billionaire. Trust me. Them kids is fine. Your mama is there. You got all these people here, right? It's not like, I think it's different to me personally. I think that works if it's only Diddy and his daughters. If it's nobody else, and on top of that, he's not a billionaire. If it's nobody else and he has no other support other than just his daughters there, then I can see maybe him leaning towards that. Because then it's like, oh, they really don't have a parent in the household. Your shit, your gallery is full. Your gallery is full of people, and you're a billionaire. You're perfectly fucking fine. But yeah, y'all, I think that at the end of the day, like I said, I think he might get 2.5 to 3. I feel so bad for Cassie. I just feel for her so badly. For you to have to be pregnant and do that is crazy. It's crazy. And there was a civil lawsuit that just came out 2 days ago against Diddy and his son for gang. Okay, for gang. So you got to deal with that as well. You know, now that the trial, I mean, it's not over. So like I said, he has to sit July 8th. They'll have a conversation about whether or not they're going to move up the sentencing. But as it stands right now, Friday, October 3rd is his sentencing date. As it currently stands. That might change July 8th. I will come back and let you guys know if that changed, right? My thing is, I'm very interested on what happens after, right? So I'm interested, number one, although we will never know this, I'm interested in what his relationship looks like with his daughters. Because you could be found not guilty all you want or whatever. We know that your sons are trash. you raised them to be trashed and in your image. So like they don't see anything wrong with the shit that you're doing. But I'm pretty sure that a lot of, at least like the really I'm pretty sure them girls have seen their dad be violent. But I'm pretty sure obviously they didn't know about all the sexual stuff. And you oh crap, sorry y'all. There's a damn gnat in my face. I'm pretty sure they didn't know about all of that. So my thing is like, I'm wondering, how does your relationship look like with your daughters when they have to sit in that courtroom for like 10 weeks and listen to that? Like, it's never gonna be the same. It's never gonna be the same. I tell you that damn much. But yeah, but that's pretty much it, y'all. Y'all get in the comments. Tell me what y'all think. Are y'all surprised that he walked? Are you not surprised? Realistically, I am not surprised that he is, I don't say walking. I'm not surprised that he wasn't found guilty on the charges connected to Jane Doe. I'm really not even surprised that he didn't get charged on a RICO, because it was feeling like that. Although I feel like the state did their case, I could see how the average person don't care about none of that and just didn't want to convict him of the RICO. But again, I think they did the best that they could do. We'll see what they give him. I'll be back July 8th, y'all. Oh, well, actually, I'm a liar. I'll be doing a vlog, right, for the Beyonce concert. So actually, I'm a liar. I will probably be here the 9th because I'm going to the Beyonce show in DC on the 7th. So I'll see y'all with a vlog with the Beyonce show, and we'll talk about the Diddy whatever happened on the 8th. See y'all later. Bye.